Well, the reason why is because nobody's talking about it, or better yet, nobody's addressing it effectively. We actually hit the gas pedal all the way down to the floor. Okay. I know that there is a lot of stigma associated with having a conversation about mental health. It's a very, very personal thing for a lot of people. And all of a sudden, just because people talk about it, there are people who feel, oh, I'm labeling myself as a person who has mental health or suicide thoughts or addiction. That is not true. Maybe that's the reason why I'm the guy to stir the pot, because I feel it's serious because I've been around it, and I was very clearly able to identify when things are wrong with people working in the hospitality industry.
All right, here we go. Welcome to the show, Chef Vincent. So, just to give you a little bit of background about what we do, our audience is, mainly pizzeria owners and operators, folks who have been, in and around the industry for some time, or folks that are looking to get into it and are almost crazy enough to sign a lease and open a restaurant. We just try to give them a little bit of advice here, try to help them on their journey and encourage them versus discourage folks to get into it. Is where we really try to land. And as I was reading a little bit about you, I've, spent your career in and around some kitchens.
Yeah,
That's you've been doing some really important work, including what you're doing now, but where you came from and what you've been doing, you've you've really got the experience to help some folks, you know, make this leap and do it and do it in the right way. So I really like to get into a couple of those things. But
yeah,
first,
sure.
tell us who you are and where you come from, and what you're doing.
All right. Well, I'm Chef Vincent Tropepe. I am from New York City. As a restaurant, I really like traveled the world, really America. I've opened 95 different restaurants for owners and operators that wanted to get into the hospitality industry.
Okay.
I've also serviced pre-existing restaurants that were having problems. And I go in and identify what the issues are and try to turn it all around. I am a published author. My seventh book is coming out in September.
Congratulations.
And thanks. And I'm also the founder of what's called the Hospitality Mental Wellness Initiative USA, that focuses on the suicide, the addiction, and the mental health epidemic in the hospitality industry.
Uh, and that's very important. I mean, I know that's the reason why we're talking here today, but I kind of want to go back to the beginning for you. What put you into the kitchen initially?
Well, I've been around food my entire life. You know, first I was born and raised in Brooklyn, which is like the mecca of pizza. All great pizza. I know I may get in trouble for this. All great pizza has always started in Brooklyn. I'm sorry. Recently, there's articles. This state has the best pizza. Listen, all great pizza came from at least the root of Brooklyn. I don't care what anybody. But anyway,
I'm sure there's a couple of people that will argue with you about that.
yeah, every now and then, so what are you gonna do? That happens, But I've really been around food my whole life. My parents have been in the chocolate space, and when they were busy, I was with my grandmothers that were cooking for 30, 40 people every night from scratch, So I've just always around it. I just always saw it, you know. And then, I went to high school. I went to culinary school twice, and then I picked up multiple certifications afterwards. And I worked in very important places. Now, as an adult, thinking about my past, I was always around food. It really wasn't a surprise that that's what I chose.
Yeah. And you kind of mentioned it, a little bit there. You worked in some pretty serious kitchens in New York, and I'm
Yeah,
sure all over place. Like, what
yeah, the Rainbow Room, SD 26 with Tony May, Mr. K's, which was a very famous Chinese restaurant at one time. Yeah, a whole bunch of them.
when you think about those times and where you are now, what were some of those important lessons that you learned early on that kind of shapes you into who you are today as a leader and a chef?
You have to focus on what you're doing. And, it's one thing, when you do something over and over again, right? But if you're not focused in when you're doing it, then you're really not doing it. You know what I'm saying? Like somebody could keep doing it over and over, but if you're not paying attention to everything and you're not focused, then you're really not doing it. It's just the mechanics of doing it.
Sleepwalk.
Completely two different things. And that's a very important.
I understand that, and I agree with that. In our business, and especially now in the age of social media and the internet and influencers and all this, and there's so many people who talk about food and how important food is, and food's this culture and that culture, but very few people talk about what hospitality really looks like and understand what hospitality means.
Mhm.
What's the difference? Because you said there's a difference between doing something and being focused on it. There's also a difference between food and hospitality, right?
Of course, hospitality is how you treat people when they walk in the door. And you have to make sure that people feel, no matter what kind of restaurant it is, whether it's a pizzeria, whether it's a Michelin rated, you have to make them feel like they're being taken care of, period. And that, if you do that, you'll be their favorite pizza place.
So
Because you understand something. Some people feel that business is just transactional. I walk into a pizzeria, I buy a pie, and I give the guy $30 and I walk out with the pie. It is transactional because you're paying for service. But hospitality is something that's rooted in taking care of people.
about making it an experience, right?
Of course,
For that transaction.
for
In
sure.
one of your books, you talk about the other five senses and how important that is, and why does that matter for somebody that's trying to lead and grow a business? With all this competition out here.
Well, you know what it is? The Other Five Senses is a book that I wrote about what I consider to be the other five senses that hospitality professionals need to have in order to have, a long career. So it's not just about tasting and smelling and looking. It's about a sense of timing, a sense of identity. Like even with a pizzeria, people say, "Oh, it's just a pizzeria." The brand and the identity of that pizzeria is just as important as what it is that you're serving, right? So it's all plays into each other. So the Other Five Senses is an important book. It actually became curriculum. Actually, that book was actually translated into 7 different languages and taught all around the world in different culinary schools,
Wow.
because it really gave a perspective of, wow, I need to know how to cook, but I also need all of this other stuff. So it was really cool.
That is really cool and very important.
Hmm.
Is it something that is used by young chefs and managers and coming up in the industry, or is this something that someone who's experienced and has 20, 30, 40 years can learn from too, right?
The truth is that even the most experienced people don't really realize what those other five senses are. Like I said, just because you've been doing something doesn't mean that you can't do it better, and doesn't mean that you've been doing it right all that
Yeah.
time.
And your book now, course and curriculum, really dives into you know digging into those
You
other
know what
five
it does?
senses.
It makes people dig a little deeper. That's what that book does. It makes you think, and it makes you dig a little bit deeper into, I want to focus on being a pastry chef, or I want to focus on being a pizzaiola, or I want to focus on this kind of cuisine. It makes you dig a little deeper as to why. What is drawing you to do that?
Yeah,
Because the truth is that when you dig a little deeper and you get those key identifiers, not only are you going to be happier, but you're going to want to do it. Sometimes things aren't what they seem, right?
a lot
Until
of
you
times.
until you're elbow deep in pizza dough, right? I mean, that's it. But if you dig a little deeper and you ask the questions as to why it is that I want to do that, that's important. It's important.
Yeah, absolutely. And it kind of leads me into why you decided to shift your focus and lean into mental health and the mental wellness of chefs and hospitality professionals. What what was it that led you there and it brought you to really stand out publicly? Because everyone knows, and we've all been in those kitchens and we've seen the issues and the drug abuse and all, and the suicide rate, but no one talks about it. Why did you decide to go stand on stage and be the forefront of it?
Well, the reason why is because nobody's talking about it, or better yet, nobody's addressing it effectively. The nonprofit is addressing a long-standing serious problem. This is nothing new. This has been going on for decades. Here's the difference. The difference between the Hospitality and Mental Wellness Initiative and everything that tries to address it, or everybody that tries to address it, is that we actually hit the gas pedal all the way down to the floor. Okay. I think that, well, not that I think, I know that there is a lot of stigma associated with having a conversation about mental health. Okay. It's a very, very personal thing for a lot of people. And all of a sudden, just because people talk about it, there are people who feel, oh, I'm labeling myself as a person who has mental health or suicide thoughts or addiction. That is not true. I have no addiction issues. I have no mental health issues. Maybe I'm a little bit crazy for doing this for so long. Who knows? But I don't have any of those issues. And maybe that's the reason why I'm the guy to stir the pot, because I feel it's serious, because I've been around it, and I was very clearly able to identify when things are wrong with people working in the hospitality industry. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it needs to continue. And quite honestly, I don't care if someone is stocking shelves in a supermarket. I don't care if someone's making calzones in a pizzeria. I don't care if someone's a line cook in a Michelin rated restaurant. This initiative is going to handle it all. And the website really is very comprehensive.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit more about the initiative and what your goals are, how someone can get involved? Because I imagine that since you started this, you probably met countless numbers of people who said, "Man, thank you."
Yeah, I have conference calls from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. 3 days a week. And it's chefs, it's mental health professionals, it's addiction counselors all across America. So it's a 12-hour day that I'm talking to people about the initiative and what we're doing and how they want to get involved. So to first answer your question, how could someone get involved? On the website, there is both two tabs on the navigation bar. One says delegation, and the other says advisory board members. People could fill out an application to be considered as a delegate or an advisory board anywhere in the United States. Obviously, because the nonprofit has a blueprint of being a national one, we need to have people in different states all around the country. They will assist us in um, how we talk to the mental health caucus in Washington, D.C. What might be of concentration in one state might not be the same, not as serious as something in another state. So we need delegates and we need advisory board members all across America, no matter where they are. And that's a good first way to get involved.
Yeah, it's just to apply to become a delegate or apply to join the advisory board. And I'll link the website, but it's for those that are listening. HMWIUSA is that .org, HMWIUSA.org, and you'll get some information on what the mission is, how to get involved. I see here over 15 million hospitality workers in the United States right now.
Yeah. Well, we're picking up a lot of steam really quick. We're doing a lot of collaborations with a lot of different events, and we hope to expand that more and more.
Also saw that your website says that 73% of those workers report some mental health issues on some level, whether it be directly or indirectly. How does a leader identify someone who may need support?
Well, here's the thing: that someone it's a little difficult, because a lot of times people who need help, one, they deny they need help, and two, they try extra hard to cover it up.
Yeah.
Right. And in a fast-paced kitchen, in a fast-paced environment, it's also very easy to overlook something like that. So what we're going to be doing is, in the near future, we're going to be launching our e-academy that will have courses, self-guided courses on all of these subjects. We don't have them up yet, but we will have them up in the very near future, where anyone going on the website could access that information on how to lead with this consciousness of being in tune with your.
Well, Yeah, yeah, and I see that, even today as we've seen, recent news reports about, different chefs in different kitchens and how folks are treated. I think it's what happens on the back end of that is more people start to speak out, right? And more people start to, align themselves with doing things that are right. And your organization is a place for these folks to gather, right?
Well, for sure. As a matter of fact, we also have on the website, on the back end of the website, we have a career board where both employers that feel that mental health is something that's very important, as well as candidates who want to work in a positive and healthy work climate where they could exchange. So we actually created an entire career and job center in the
Love
back
that.
end of so yeah.
Love that, and it sounds like we talked a second ago, and you're also out at a conference, and you're making connections, and you're teaching people, every day
Yep.
you're living your lives just so they can find you.
Just like yeah. We
What do you want?
also we
Profe-
also
Go
myself
ahead.
and the directors, we also make sure that we are always in the important rooms that we need to be in. And to be honest with you, I am so grateful for the people who have extended invitations to me and the board of directors to be in these places because we need to be there. Everybody wants to change, but nobody knows how to go about it. I'm lucky and I'm very happy that people feel that I'm the guy to do it and it's going to be done.
Yeah. Did you ever have any moments where you thought, man, maybe this path is going to be too tough? Did anybody try to warn you, say, don't do it, don't put yourself out there like that? It's going to be too hard. How
And
do
you
you overcome
know
that?
what it is? I'm going to tell you something. I wrote about it in a book of mine that my very, very, very first class and very first day of culinary school, I had this really big fat chef with a very big, thick French accent, right? He comes into the room, he makes all of us introduce ourselves to each other, and then he says, I have news for you. And everybody, is looking. He goes, you're all nuts. You're all crazy to want to do this. And I was like, oh my God, what a way to start what a way to, and that's what he said. He goes, you are all crazy. He goes, I says, oh, okay. I said, listen, listen, honestly, I could tell you that I've been cooking for so long and I've been around food for so long. It's really, for me, it's just like intuition. It's just become a part of me where, listen, I don't get stressed when I cook. I don't get stressed when I bake. I'm happy to be where I am, and we just keep it going. Sometimes people need to learn that from me too. Everybody's running around like going all crazy. I tell them just the other day I was in the. I said, "Why don't you just relax,
Slow down.
chill out, right? Because it's one thing that you have to do it quickly, right? But if you do it quickly and you don't do it correctly, then you're doing it wrong. If you just move quickly, but be conscious of what you're doing. Just relax. It's like this constant state of emergency that nobody's thinking about what it is they have to do. I walked over to them in that part of the kitchen, and I was like, "Okay, you do this, you do that, and you cook this, and I have all the plates." And everything seemed so much more smoothly. When it was all over, when it was all over, they says, that was really good. I said, yeah, ain't that something? Relax. Everybody's getting what they're gonna get. You know, they were bumping into each other. They were like, what are you doing? Chill. You know, and sometimes they need to be around a seasoned person to just let them know that yes, it's speed, it's important, but let's just do it correctly because you don't want to do something that'd be wrong. What's the point of
Well,
that?
mistakes cost double in a restaurant, so
Error.
we don't want to do that. But one of the things that we teach and we coach is, for leaders is that the team is going to move how you move, and they're going to take their cues from you, and they're going to you know get their energy from you. So if you're having a bad day, you're going to project a bad day. If you're calm and you're collected, you're going to it's going to be a better shift if you can get it. And it's not talking about we're not talking about changing the world. We're just talking about getting through Friday night. Like,
Yeah,
how are we prepared? Do we have our routines down? Do we have the right people in the right places? Are we communicating the right way? And are we mentally ready to just handle whatever comes? Because it can get crazy. We know that it's supposed to, right? If you're doing it right, it's going to get a little bit crazy because everybody eats at the same time. But we can manage that if we have the right leadership in place.
got that right.
What do you look to accomplish over the next few seasons with HMWI? What's your big goal?
So what we hope for is to partner in different cities with multiple. What we want to do is we want to have multiple multi-course dinners with a different chef cooking each course in different cities all around America, as a way to not only introduce the nonprofit to different areas and the culinary professionals in those markets, but also to have bring awareness to the community of this is what we're doing. That's the first thing. The second thing that we want to do is we want to work very diligently on legislation with the Congressional Mental Health Caucus in Washington, D.C. I've already been in communication with them, and we're going to make sure that we take the steps that we need to make sure that hospitality professionals are protected through legislation in regarding to their mental health. So those are just a couple of things. They're big things.
Very, very big
That,
things.
I mean, we know the work that's ahead of us, but we want to keep up the momentum, and we will.
I love that. And you're making a lot of moves. You're traveling all around the world and the country. What do you do to take time for you as you explore some of these new places?
I have to learn to hit the pause button a little bit, right? But what do I do for me? I know it's going to sound stupid because a big part of my career is writing, right? I mean, but I do write. I do write a lot, and I find it's very, very beneficial for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I've authored a lot of books and stuff, but for me to write is like my everyday thing for me. So I'm cool with
That
that.
I like that. All right. So you said it at the top of the show. Pizza's born in Brooklyn. All the best pizza somehow, some way came out of Brooklyn. What's your go-to pizzeria in Brooklyn?
Okay, so my favorite pizzeria in Brooklyn is called Crispy Pizza on 13th Avenue in Dyker Heights. And I literally have been eating that pizza almost my entire life, except for when I moved out of Brooklyn. I've been eating that pizza, and I've actually I have an older sister. My sister used to go to dancing school at a dancing studio right next to the pizzeria. And I didn't care about dancing. What the hell do I care about dancing? But they have doors that open, and I used to watch them making the pizza, tossing the pizza and all that from when I was little, very little. So, I mean, at the time, like when you're 7, you think, oh, this guy's just like throwing dough around, right? But now as a professional, they were really like craftsmen. They really like they were layering flavors. And now that I know about food, I know that they were like pizza engineers.
Yeah, and still very very much the best.
Yeah. So, and let me tell you, I've eaten pizza all around the world. I've I love pizza. I've tried it everywhere, you know. But I went to Sao Paulo. I was in Sao Paulo for 4 months. Love Veridana. Veridana is a pizzeria in one of the best in the world, actually. Fantastic pizza, So there's great pizza everywhere, but my heart belongs to Brooklyn.
I gotta link you up with my boy Fernando in Brooklyn. He makes Argentinian style pizza, and it is fantastic. Fantastic. Talking about layering flavors and doing something different with pizza. He's Brooklyn, through and true, but he's the pizzas that he's making is really cool.
Cool, I'll go.
Any works in the school system. I think you guys will actually get along great.
Okay, cool.
I have to link you up. So 7 books published, eighth book coming out this year. Organization
Seventh book.
seventh coming out this year. Six published, seventh coming out this year. You got the organization is continuing to grow. You've already reached every state in America and in multiple countries. We know how to get folks involved. how else can people support? Can we, try to help raise money? Do you need people in different cities? Like, I want to use our platform to try to do whatever we can to try to help push your initiative because it's so important.
Yeah, well, there's a way that, if someone wanted to organize something in their area, they could just write us an email, and then we could have that dialogue and see, what they want to do, and the best way to execute it, and we'll help them any way that we can. It's not just on them. It's a collaboration happen.
So we were just talking about, best way to get involved. So reach out, send an email. You're open to collaborating with different professionals in wherever they are in the world. That's good. What about folks who want to follow along? Are there social media pages and things like that where
Yeah, all the
they can reach
social
out?
media, all the social media is the initials of the nonprofit. So HMWI USA. That's what it is on Instagram, on TikTok, everywhere. They could follow along.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Well, we'll make sure that we put all of the links to everything in the show notes. And, if there's, anything else that you want to leave us with before we end this, I really appreciate your time and I appreciate the work that you're doing. And I'm
Well,
looking forward to
I mean,
pushing it out more.
I appreciate you having me on to talk about everything about pizza and the nonprofit and all that fun, delicious stuff. And, you know, I wish everybody, success in what they're pursuing. And if you need me, you can find me. Everybody else does. And, yeah, just, take it one day at a time and stay focused. That's it.
That's good stuff. Chef Vincent, thanks for your time. I know you're at a conference, so we'll let you get back to it, my brother. Thanks again for joining us.
Bye, everybody.
If you've gotten any value out of this episode or any of our other episodes, I need you to do me a favor. Go leave us a review. Every review on Apple, every 5-star rating on Spotify helps this show find more operators just like you and helps them get that same value that you're taking away from this episode. And as a thank you, anytime somebody leaves a review, sends me a screenshot, just DM me a screenshot of your review, I'm going to send you a free gift, something awesome, something cool. I'll send you a gift, whoever leaves a review. That's the challenge. Go leave a review, DM me a screenshot of it, and then I'll get you something. I got you something special from your boy. Now let's get back into the episode. Peace.